Joint processes are when more than one product gets some resources from the same place. So I always like to think of the example, you have a dairy farm and you go milk the cows, and so you've got costs up to that point, feed for the cows, workers on the farm, the barn, the buckets, right? Once you get the milk in the bucket, you're going to take it and process it, and it's going to become skim milk and cream and butter, and it's gonna all these costs up to that point of it getting in the bucket are shared, right? Then how do you split up those costs once you start turning the milk into other products, right? So that's what joint production is. You have something you're creating and it just uses the same resources, and then at some point they split off and you do something else separate to them. You take the milk and you take the cream off, and you take some of the cream and you turn it into butter. So you have to do more processes, right? But there's some point where they split off, and you got to account for everything up to that point. Share it. After they split off, you can keep track of the stuff separately, but before they split off, you need to figure out, how am I going to split up those costs that come up to that point. All right, so these are joint, or what we call main products, all have significant value on their own, right? So a joint or main product would be like, we take milk and we get butter and we get cream and we get milk. They're all important products. They all sell separately on their own. This is as opposed to a byproduct. So we're not really going to do much with byproducts in this class, but a byproduct would be something like you're running a lumber mill and you mill the wood, and there's some sawdust. Sawdust doesn't really have much value. It's definitely a byproduct. You're not going to do anything else with it, but you can kind of bag it up and sell it, I don't know, to be like hamster bedding or something. Sell it to some place that makes particle board furniture. But anyway, you can do something with the sawdust. So that's a byproduct, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about specific separate products that you actually do something with and go on to sell. Okay, so here their example is a hog. You take a hog and you process it, and once you've processed it, you're going to have meat and hides, right? So you're going to go and separately process that pork meat and turn it into bacon and pork chops and things. You're also going to separately process the hides and turn it into, I don't know, footballs. So we're talking about there's a split off point. So we need to take care of these costs up to the split off point. All right. So that's what we're working on with this. All right. So we need to be able to separate those costs and allocate them. All right. We have to figure out a way to do it, and there's a few different methods, and we're going to learn those. All right. So here's the idea. Material is steel. Here's where we're splitting off, and there's separate processing that you're going to go and get your Mustang and your Taurus, right? So you've got the joint costs are back here in the steel. Processing is separately to turn it into a Mustang or a Taurus. So we're talking about this part, all right? So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Here's what we're going to learn in this class. We're going to learn physical units, sales value at split off, and net realizable value. So if we were in class, I would probably talk about physical units method first, work a problem, then talk about sales value at split off, work a problem. But where I worked these problems is 7.39. So if you go to the videos for 7.39, I think it'll make a lot of sense how we end up allocating these joint costs. But I'll talk a little bit about it so you'll understand the terminology, and then you can go watch that get worked on. All right, so physical units, just like it sounds. How many things do you have? So you can imagine that you've got some joint costs up to the split off point, and then you can imagine then you have some different units. So in our part of the country, we process a lot of oil, and those refineries over in Corpus Christi take a barrel of oil and they turn it into gasoline and kerosene and tar, all kinds of different stuff, right? So you could say, okay, at the split off point, we get, for a barrel of oil, at the split off point, we're going to get, if we produce a tanker full of oil and we refine it, we're going to get, I don't even know, 50,000 gallons of gasoline and 80,000 gallons of kerosene and 50,000 gallons of tar. So you can assign some units to it, right? We're not really going to do weighted average, but it's similar. It's just you're using some average of the split off product. But in this case, you can actually count. If you've got some physical units you can actually count, we just would count it. Barrels of oil, sticks of butter, pounds of meat, right? So physical units, you count how many things there are at the split off. So if you took milk, a gallon of milk at the split off, and you separated it into milk, cream, and half, and you took a gallon of milk, so you had half a gallon of milk, a pint of half and a pint of cream. Right? So there's your physical units. Alright, and we can also do sales value at split off. So what we do is some of these things have a sales value at the split off that's separate from its ultimate value. So again, with the milk, we're going to split it into milk, half and cream. Well, we can take the cream and further process it and make some milk and make some cheese. Make some butter and make some cheese, right? Or maybe we can take the milk and make some cheese, right? So, but at the split off, milk has a value, cream has a value, right? So we can assign values to those and proportionalize the joint cost based on that at the split off. Even though we know we might go ahead and use that cream and that milk to make some cheese and some butter and some other stuff, half and half. All right? Now, net realizable value. This goes back to this idea where there's some eventual additional processing that we're going to do. So back to our milk example, I go back and I split my milk into cream and milk. That's the split off point. If I was doing value at split off point, I would just value it there. But I know I'm going to go ahead and add some more costs separately. So once I get the cream separated out, I'm going to take that cream and I'm going to turn it into butter. Right? It's going to cost me some money because I'm going to have to churn it and do some stuff, but it's going to be butter. So it's going to have actually a different value as butter than it did as cream. All right? So that's what we mean by net realizable value. So I can take those products and say, out of this product at the split off point, I'm going to go further and produce it, and at the end I will realize this much value and will proportionalize that cost based on that. Okay, and that's all we're going to do. There's a little bit more in the chapter that talks about byproducts, but again, I don't expect you to know that, but you should read it so you know the difference between a byproduct and a joint product. All right, so I would say definitely check out 7.35 and 7.39 when I work them on the videos, and I think that'll help you understand a lot. And I'll see you at chapter 8.